Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Inside the Mind of a Fighter. A series where it's like a little podcast, yet you get to chill with me and the fighter as we watch the fight and we vibe out. Today we have PHAR Jenkins, who's a future UFC superstar, and we're going to react to his fight that he had up against
Costa
last week, right?
Yeah, Saturday night.
Sweet. Let's get into it. Now, first, I'm going to ask you questions about the fight and tap into your mind. Then, I'll ask you personal questions so my audience can get to know you on a more personal level. Now, this is a stadium, right? Now, it's not the first time you fought in the stadium. You fought a couple of times, right?
Yeah. I fought at Carrara Stadium last time I fought on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
This one was at a bigger venue again. So it was cool. It was awesome, like the stadium walkout where you walk out through the tunnel to the crowd and stuff. It was sick.
Now, I want to ask you, as opposed to fighting in a stadium and Melbourne Pavilion that's here, is there a big difference that you feel?
The stadium for me is just so much better. Like it's you feel so much more in the zone, ready to go. The pavilion for me, because I go to other events and stuff there. Like I was at like a card trading convention there like a few weeks ago. Yeah, like UFC cards and stuff.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Wasn't that called Tops or whatever?
Yeah. So Panini is the UFC now.
Okay.
Tops used to do it.
Yep.
So the pavilion just feels like you're sort of like going out for another fight at the pavilion. Whereas here you're like, fuck, this is a stadium show. This is the joint.
Does it play with you mentally a little bit?
Yeah, but like I love it. Like that the bigger the stage, I feel like the better I perform. Like get into the zone better and that sort of thing. So
how does PHAR Jenkins get into the zone? What do you do? What's your like ritual routine? Do you have any?
Yeah, so it's like it's kind of a long process in that once I've signed to fight, I kind of change my demeanor and stuff around everything I do. So I get a little bit colder, a little bit more reserved and internal, I suppose you would say. I'm usually a pretty extroverted person. You would see me around the gym pretty loud, dancing, carrying on here and there. Whereas once I start to zone in towards a fight, especially that last 3 weeks, I sort of become a little bit more somber and a bit more focused in. But when I get to the venue, it's purely for me, it's get my hands wrapped as early as I can. So I hate the idea of like, this is for young fighters too.
Yeah. I
think you should wrap your hands and get comfortable in your hand wraps and have your groin guard on and everything that you're going to fight in ready to go as early as you can. So you can walk around and you can be relaxed and there's no thought of like, fuck, I've got to get my hand wraps on and then I've only got 2 fights before I'm on and then I've got to get warm quickly. Yeah. You know, that you don't want any of that stress. So I get my hands wrapped real early and then from then I listen to music, kick back, talk to my coaches, have a laugh. And then I sort of go, all right, I expect to be on between this time and this time. So I want to be sweating and ready to go before then. Yeah. And then as soon as I start the warm up, it's just like lock in. So like nothing external, no phone, don't talk to anyone outside of my team, don't do anything like that. It's purely pads, talk to my coaches, pads, talk to my coaches. For this fight, I've found that me personally, I need 1 or 2 rounds of active work for me to find my zone. If I go in there cold turkey, like maybe I've hit pads, so I'm a little bit warm, but I haven't actually hit and been avoiding punches.
Like a light sparring type of thing?
Like a light sparring thing. I need that to sort of find my distance and be really on. So my brother came out and put gloves on and we moved. And same thing, first 2 minutes you start to find your shots. And we ended up probably doing 2 full rounds of sparring. And by the end of it,
5 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes. By the end of it, I'm just on. Like, just on. The body rips that you saw at the start of this fight here, that one there, like I was hitting those shots on my brother, just like pinpoint accuracy. So by the time they call my name then, and I go out, it's like, I've already been fighting. I'm already ready to go.
Because I noticed when you walked out, you were like sweating.
Yeah. So I have to be sweating by the time I'm going out. Otherwise, it takes me a while to find my rhythm. And the last thing in a fight like this, like Rod, he's so good at what he does. You start letting him get onto his groove and his rhythm. You've got to climb that seesaw back. Whereas I don't want that. As soon as we start, I want to start leaning it towards me and leaning towards me and leaning towards me. Yeah. And that's what you saw here from the get-go. It was very one-sided in the striking department, and I made sure that I stayed on top of that the whole fight.
Was that your game plan?
100%.
To keep it on the feet and strike?
Yep, game plan, get the hands working early, stay low. You can see me, every time I go to the fence here and I take a step back, I reset low into my base. It's so that I'm ready, like here, I go up a bit and then I go back down. So I'm just constantly reminding myself to stay low in these exchanges and not overextend for the chance that I come in with that big right hand and I'm a bit tall and he drops under and hits the hips. I don't want to get into that third and fourth phase of a scramble if I don't have to. I want to beat him on the one.
Yeah.
When he drops, I want to beat that first shot.
Because that's his game plan, right? To get you to the ground.
Yeah, so Rod's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion at black belt. So like his grappling pedigree is huge.
And you respected that?
Respected it completely. Yeah, he's done it. He's done it to so many guys where, you know, people start to get their hands off him on him a little bit, and he's just so tough and durable, and he'll sit, and then boom, he drops in for a double leg, and then he's on your back, and you're going, shit, I'm defending for my life here. And I just never wanted to get to that point.
Understood. Now, in this first round, we saw you got wobbled a little bit with those calf kicks and leg kicks, yeah?
Yep.
When you started to notice that in the first round, did you feel like you wanted to jump the gun and straight away like try and attack it hard, or did you want to stay and remain calm and take your time with it?
I wanted to stay calm completely, because if you watch, so if you go back over my fights early on, I would find something that was working like that, and then I would rush. And that was when whenever I had trouble in a fight, it was from rushing and making mistakes there. So Simon and Andy, my two coaches, were so big in the lead up to this fight, and even my last couple of fights, of just be patient and trust your skill set to show out over the distance of a fight. So when I hit him, it was like, that's more damage, that's good. Go back to your jab. That's more damage, that's good. Sit low in your stance. So it was just about staying calm and relaxed and not trying to rush a finish and make a mistake. Because as you would know, in a fight, it doesn't matter how far up in front I am. I can be landing, at this point, by the time round 2 starts, it's probably, 50 or 60 punches to 3 or 4 in terms of strike difference. He gets under and takes my back. Oh, that goes out the window. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You get a strangle locked in, none of that stuff matters. So it's just about patience and pinpoint accuracy to stay in the zone.
How do you practice that to stay in the zone and to remain disciplined and not jump the gun? What do you do? What advice could you give?
Experience. So I've made the mistakes, right? So I've done that where my first fight that I lost, my first time I got submitted, was exactly that. It kind of played out the first round similar, where I was dominating the exchanges and then made a mistake, rushed something, ended up on the ground and ended up getting armbarred. So I've made the mistakes, and then I've made the corrections in training of just, when you do land something, staying super calm and super composed. But that's one thing that you just need your ring time for. So like guys like yourself and the people coming up who are probably a little bit further behind in their careers in terms of experience, you guys have the luxury of the amateur careers that sort of we never had. I was probably the last of the guys who never really had an amateur career. So my first fight was supposed to be an amateur fight. MMA. And the week of the fight, I'd already sold 150 tickets, and the promoter calls and says, your amateur's opponent's out, but there's a pro fight if you want it. So I ended up taking a pro fight on the week that I was supposed to have my first amateur fight.
And that means you can never go amateur?
Can never go back to amateur, right? So I had no amateur career to make mistakes in and to learn. So I took my licks and took my mistakes on the pro scene. But
do you regret that?
No, not at all. I don't, because it's like you take what's in front of you. You can take what you can get, and it could have gone the other way. Like I went 3-0 still as a pro before I took a loss, and now where I'm at now, I'm happy with the losses I took and the fact that I learned from them and made changes. And I think you can see in this performance here that I'm the best guy in the country at this weight class, and so I wouldn't change anything.
100%. Now, before we get into a bit more personal stuff, I want to ask you one more thing. As the individuals that are going to watch this clip, over the period, they're going to see that Rod's still in front of you. You're battering his legs up, but he's still standing in front of you.
Yep.
What does that do to you mentally? Like with Jason, you finished him in the second round, but this is a 5-round fight. And Rod was still in front of you after you kicked his legs that many times. Does it stuff you mentally to be like, what is this guy made of?
Yeah, nah. See, I got asked that immediately after the fight by some of the boys, and it was the opposite effect. Because I knew how tough he was, I had mentally prepped myself to go for 5 rounds for the whole training camp. Ever since we said we were going to take this fight, I went, right, Rod's tough, he's going to be there. I'm going to be fit enough to put pace on him for 5 rounds. I'm going to be strong enough and sharp enough that in that 5th round, when we get up and go out there, I'm not going to be fading. I'm still going to be ready to go.
Yeah.
And that was exactly what you see. So we get to this 3rd round, and I have no finish anxiety. That was what I used to have. Like in footy, you might call it like white line fever or something like that, where you're just trying to get a goal or you're just trying to finish and you're trying to force it. I had none of that. I was completely in control. You can see here I'm changing stances, I'm faking, I'm giving him different looks. I think here you see a switch body, then head kick.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I'm seeing everything. So there's no, what's my rush to try and get this finish.
But even though it looks like he's about to give up and he's just like, oh, you're so close on the edge of finishing it.
Yeah, it looks real close. Like there's times, even there's been some people who have said even, oh, maybe Jack felt a bit like merciful and didn't want to finish him. And that's ridiculous.
Okay.
Absolutely ridiculous. If I saw an opportunity for a finish, I would have jumped on it. But you have to respect Rod's skill set and go, no. If the finish is there, I'm going to take it. But you see, he never looks like going away. He looks like he's there for the whole time.
Yeah. Now my last question is, they'll see it as well, but up from round 1 to 4, I felt like you were battering his legs up. And then in round 5, it seems that you just focused on the hands. How come you stopped throwing the kicks in the 5th round?
It wasn't a conscious decision so much as that Rod was standing nearly completely square. So if you see his stance now, he's still staggered. So when I'm setting stuff up, there's still the option there for me to throw the kicks. As this fight progresses, you'll see more of the time he's standing, he's leaning against the cage. So you see I've dropped him there with another one. See here how he stands so square? It's real hard to get a kick off there because it's so quick for him to turn his knee out, and it's really high risk for me to throw it.
Okay.
Because again, I'm only 1 kick away from hurting my own leg if it's mistimed. So when he's standing so square, it's like, all right, go straight down the pipe, because when someone's standing square, it opens everything up down the middle. So why would I try and force that leg kick when I'm landing as many shots as I want straight down the pipe?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And you've got a bit of swollen hands, bit of swollen feet
swollen
and whatnot,
hands, yeah.
During the fight, was it just a pure thing of adrenaline that you didn't feel anything up until after?
I never feel it in the fight.
No?
Yeah, nah, so you don't feel anything essentially. Like that's why you can take so much damage, is the adrenaline and everything, you're not really feeling it.
Okay.
So you see here, like we're going into the 3rd. I only sat down for about 30 seconds and then I got up. I'm just fit enough to stand there and go.
Was it a thing that you told your corner to be like, nah, take a stool?
Yeah. So they said take 3 deep breaths. I took 3 deep breaths. I got 1 or 2 really clear instructions, what I like to do. Like Raja told me, throw the right hand a little straighter. After this 2nd round, he said, you looping your right hand a little bit, so throw it a little bit straighter. And then I said, right, I'm up, take the stool, and I got straight back to work. Yeah. And I think this round or the 4th round is probably my best round.
You like these ones the most?
Yeah.
Why is that?
It just the fitness of to be able, like you expect someone at my level to be able to keep the pace I held for the first 2 rounds, but to be able to carry it through round 3, 4, and then come out in the 5th and still have the speed and pace is I'm pretty proud of that.
It's not easy, bro.
Yeah, it's hard to do, especially 5-minute rounds.
100%.
See here, and he starts shooting and I'm defending well. So see how I was throwing the right hand a little straighter now and finding a tone. That was my only advice I got in the corner here. So
can you hear your corner at this point?
Yep.
You can hear everything clear?
Yeah. And here I'm just getting real simple instructions. Stay low, stay sharp.
Now, I want to ask you this. When did you start martial arts? How long have you been training for?
So I started kickboxing when I was 14. So I'm 28 now.
Was that something that your parents got you into, or you?
Nah, so my eldest brother, we were just hitting pads down there, he was kickboxing at the time. And he took me up to the gym, just so, but see how he's standing with his legs so square? My options to kick there are limited, so it's easier for me to just throw my straight down the middle, straight down the pipe, and it makes more sense than to try and batter the leg more. And then you'll see when he comes out off the cage here again and he stands a bit more staggered, that's when I go back to the leg. Right? So it's about getting reads and making your decisions at the right times.
So 14?
Yeah, 14. And I kickboxed, but my whole thing was that I wanted to be in the UFC. I wanted to fight MMA.
But when did you know that?
When I was 14. So I watched a fight I watched was what was the fight? It was like
in the UFC?
Yeah, in the UFC. I think it was Rashad Evans versus Lyoto Machida.
Okay. Right,
so very like UFC 93, I think it was, or something like that. And I I watched that fight and went, right, that's what I want to do. I'm real keen on doing that. And but there was no jiu-jitsu or anything anywhere around me in Bacchus Marsh, but there was a kickboxing gym at I see, like the damage I'm putting on in this round is like, you see it's really starting to add up.
Oof, that was a clean rip.
Yeah,
that was clean.
There's a kickboxing gym in Bacchus Marsh, and Ziggy, the coach, he was a real hard coach. Real, like, you work hard, you show up, I'm not here to push you. When you're on the bag, you push yourself. And he sort of taught me those initial skill set of just being able to work hard when you get into the gym and push yourself, which still carries me through to now. So there's that. And then when I was about 16, my brother came in one day. He said, "Hey, guess what?" I'm like, "What?" He said, "Somebody's opened a MMA gym, like a jiu-jitsu school down the road." And I went down there. He took me down, and we met Heath, and that's where I work still to this day. He's Heath and Callie's gym at Metamorphica, and he started showing me actual jiu-jitsu, because I'd been doing what I thought was jiu-jitsu, which was just wrestling with my brother, and I knew the positions, what they were called, like mount and side control, and I knew how to do an arm bar and stuff like that. And then I actually got shown what jiu-jitsu actually was, and it was like, this is magic, time to go.
At the time, did you fall more for a passion for jiu-jitsu, or did you still like, I like kickboxing more?
To be honest, and this sounds cliche, but it was honestly split down the middle. Okay. Like I love different elements of both of them. I was probably more gifted and picked up quicker the grappling stuff, but because I started the kickboxing earlier, I had a skill set there already by the time I started putting them together. And there's always new things to learn. Like I started as I'm left-handed, but I was forced to fight orthodox, to learn how to fight orthodox first.
Okay.
So then my whole career, my whole early kickboxing time, I was a orthodox fighter. And then at one point I went, oh, well, I can go southpaw, and I'm left-handed.
Bro, that's why your jabs would be so good.
Yeah, so then I taught myself to go back and fight both ways. And there's just so much learning that you can do on the ground and on the feet that's my big thing. I just love learning. I love learning new skills. I love implementing them. Like one thing you saw when we stopped before and watched, I was in southpaw and I go switch, left rip, right high kick. And like I've been working that for probably 6 months. Just that. Sit on the bag, southpaw, switch, left rip, right high, go back, switch, left rip, right high. And it takes so many hours of doing it in the gym before you can actually do it. And then in like the highest pressure situation you can get, which is a title fight, at a point in your career when there's UFC eyes on you, and you go southpaw, boom, left rip, right high kick. And like that's very satisfying to have that sort of progression.
Now, at the start when you were 14, going into 16, was it just a hobby for you at the time?
Yeah, it definitely, like you're a kid, so I was still playing rugby, and I love rugby as a team sport. And I was doing all the things kids do, going to parties and stuff like that. But I decided when I was probably 17 that, hey, look, this is something I really want to do. So stopped going to parties, started training a bit more seriously, took everything a bit more seriously. And then it was actually really prudent. It was looking back, it was probably perfect for me. But I finished high school and I was training a lot, and I was going to have my first fight. I was just turned 18. And even though physically and skill wise I probably was ready to have my first fight, I don't think mentally it was the right thing to do. And I had a couple of fights fall through, and other things happened where it just wasn't looking like happening. And I ended up taking an opportunity to move over to Canada. So I lived in Canada for a couple of years and just didn't train really at all. I trained a little bit of wrestling and went to a few gyms here and there, but nothing serious. And the beauty of that was I just got to spend 2 years just being a kid, essentially, like being an 18 to 20-year-old, and I was having fun and traveling and doing those things without that background thought of shit, I should be training, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And looking back now, that was so beneficial for me because I got a lot of that out of my system. Got it out of my system, and not only got it out of my system, but really enjoyed it, and probably grew a bit as a person as well, and came into my own a little bit confidence-wise and that sort of thing. So when I did come back and go, right, go time now, I'm going to fight, it was really easy to just switch that on. When I got back from Canada, I went back to the gym and I trained for probably 3 months, and then I went, right, book me a fight. And then it was straight on, and then I fought straight after
So
that.
when did you know that you wanted to pursue this as a full career, but not only just pursue it to be an average pro, to pursue it to where you are today, where you have aspirations to not only be in the UFC, but to go really far in the promotion?
So I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it from when I was 14. So I believe, like, I had I had like a little bookcase built into my bed, and I wrote on a Sharpie like UFC champ 2021. So like I kind of I'm a bit behind my own schedule there, but I wanted to do it then. But when did I actually make the decision to make changes in my life and commit to it? Was probably when I turned 21.
21. And where were you at this stage? Here?
I was here. Yeah, I was back here, and I'd just gone back to the gym and I'd started training, and I was like, right, if you're gonna do this, do it. No half-ass, no nothing. And at that point, since then it was like it's been full commitment from me then.
What was it? Was it a thing of like realizing that A, like you're really good at it, but B, like you felt like in a sense that, I don't know, coaching, pursuing this lifestyle, you have other external factors such as working, paying bills and whatnot. Did you feel like you weren't able to commit as much as you wanted to commit? That's why you went really hard, or was it something else?
Do you mean why wasn't I able to commit before that to the fighting? Yeah, I don't know. I think I was just young. Like, I think I didn't know what I wanted. Like everyone, like, you know, you have to go to uni, do this, do that. And I just didn't know. And, you know, I knew that fighting was in my DNA to an extent. Like, I loved to do it, but I didn't know like what pathway it was going to take and when and that sort of thing until I was 21. And I just went, right, if this is going to happen, you've got to make it happen. So that's when I just took it on myself to go, all right, here I am, time to go. And I've been at it since then.
Sweet. Now let's get back to the fight. This fight is the biggest fight of your career. Okay, there's a lot of eyes on you. There's a lot of word out there that you're going to get into the UFC. Knowing that going into this fight throughout your training camp, is there a different type of pressure going into this fight as opposed to all the other fights that you've had?
No, not necessarily. When you would think along similar lines, Kaan, to me, in that, like, when your goal is really big like that, you get committed to the process more than the event. So it's like you just have to do the things day to day, and showing up on the night, that's a bit of experience, that's a bit of having the right people around you. But what happens in here is just a reflection of the work you've done in the months and years beforehand, right? So I knew that the years before this, then more specifically the months before this, then more specifically than that, the weeks before this, I'd done everything I could, right? So I was going in there comfortable with knowing that if Rod beat me, it was because Rod was better than me. And if I beat Rod, it's because I'm better than Rod. And I was happy with the work that I'd done.
So you come to terms with it in a sense?
Yeah. So one of my favorite sayings is that get yourself comfortable with the worst case scenario, and then you can fight with a free heart. So if I'm going in there, and what's worst case scenario? I go in there, I make a mistake, I get clipped, and I get sparked out. That's absolute worst case scenario. If that happens, am I okay with who I am and how that went? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the game. We all know we take losses in the sport. Like, I've been there. I know that I can take a loss and come back. I know that, you know, it's just part of the journey. So I was comfortable with whatever was going to happen in there, and I was confident in the work that I'd put in, that I could do the game plan that I'd decided to do. So yeah, by the time you get in there now, the pressure of the UFC and all that sort of stuff doesn't really have any relevance. It's just about the work I've done.
It's just there, but you're not really pressurized by it, right?
Yeah, for sure. If anything, spurred on by it. Like, watch me. That was one thing I said after the fight. I said, watch me, because you have doubters, and you have people who want to say that you can't do certain things, and you'll never beat the Brazilians, and I've beaten 2 of them. You'll never beat the Yanks. You know, I haven't fought an American yet, but you know, I'm looking forward to the test when I do that. And those sort of things, it's like, well, watch me do it. Watch me. Like, and that's what I think more than anything. Bit of a chip on the shoulder as opposed to pressure and it holding me down.
Now, the biggest thing is the UFC, right? But let's say you don't hear from the UFC just for a while, but Bellator, One Championship, or PFL come to approach you and they say, fight for us. Would you consider it?
Nah.
Not at all?
Nah, not at all.
Okay, why is that?
I just don't think they have the best fighters. I think the best fighters are all in the UFC. There's some exemptions to that, like Kaan, and other guys who are world class.
But they're not in the weight division, yeah?
Yeah, no. I think the best featherweights in the world are in the UFC. And I think the way they run their company, it's the best promotion. So like here, you can see like the pace coming out here at the start of the 5th round. Like there's still power and everything, there's still speed, I'm still throwing volume. Rod just walks forward.
Yeah, bro, like he's like a zombie in this sense.
Yeah, and you see his legs are buckled and stuff, but still it's like, I'm still the one landing the shots, I'm still the one doing the damage here.
Going back and forth between both stances.
Yeah.
I like it. And when you did that thing, I had like a fanboy moment, bro, when you went in and you controlled his hand and did that knee.
Yeah.
Because I do the classes with
and we've been practicing it.
Yeah, to see you hit that stuff in a fight when you've practiced it in class, that's sick. Like similar thing to what you said, that switch liver high kick.
Yeah.
Because I was practicing it alongside you, it was sick to see you hit that. And
yeah, for sure. And that's like about trusting the people you're around, right? That was like Raja and Simon had spotted that and gone, if he covers up and he comes into your range and you can get hold of those wrists, then here's some stuff you can do. And you know, I think if I was being critical of myself, I maybe could have done a little bit more of that. But it was cool to at least do it once or twice, and you would have 100%. Been there. You would have been there when we were doing those reps and saw, oh, that's something we practiced.
Now in round 5, towards the end, I forgot how, but somehow you guys get to the ground.
Yep.
Did you kind of get worried a little bit, or did you kind of get worried?
Not worried, not at all. Like, so you see what happens is he's pushing, and I kind of take a step back, and I just mistime my stance switch. And when I mistime that, Rod does a really good job of getting on the leg and getting me to the fence. And I just went. The one thing that we'd spoken about a lot was that I think we thought this was going to happen on the feet. I was confident in my skill set that I was going to be able to do what I'm doing now. And we said, if you make a mistake or Rod gets timing really well and gets you to the ground, don't make a mistake and try and rush back to your feet.
Okay.
Just stay calm. And even if you have to lose a round, losing 1 round and winning 4, you still win the fight. Losing 2 rounds and winning 3, you still win the fight. So make sure you stay calm. Don't get up and turn your back and get choked. Don't make a mistake and let him get on something.
Because I was gonna say, you were close to the cage and like you could have got up, but like
100%.
You said, you took your time.
So the only thing I could think, and you know this because you know what he's like when we train, the only thing I could think was Simon just yelling at me going, don't you fucking stand up. Don't you fucking make a mistake.
Is that in the back of your mind?
Yeah, I'm thinking, and I'm kind of like, I'm almost smiling to myself. Because I was
going to say, were you smiling when you
did that? Yeah. And I'm like, there's that knee we're talking about there.
Fuck, I missed that.
But we're talking about, I'm sitting there thinking, I could get a whizzer here, and I'll get my whizzer, and I'll get back to a knee, and I'll stand up, and I'll be good to finish on my feet. And I just had Simon in the back of my head saying, close your guard, lock him up, throw some elbows from the bottom. And I went, all right, well, that's what I'll do. Because again, Brazilian black belt, Jiu-Jitsu world champion, you don't necessarily want him on your back, desperate, trying to get a finish. So yeah. I was happy to take it where it was. Yeah. See here, like Rod's pressure is frantic, but yeah, pretty much everything I throw, I'm landing anyway.
Like, I know I asked you the question, like, do you get thrown off mentally? But in this 5th round, he's coming hard at you, walking forward. That's like the first couple of times he shot. Yeah. But he's just walking forward, getting his head snapped back. Don't get fazed by that?
Nah, I'm happy. If he's happy to take it, see here, I could have thrown him, and I didn't. But like, he was just a little bit too far back.
See, look at you, you're smiling, bro.
Yeah, I was like, fuck, here we go. And see here, this guard here, I'm happy to just sit in this kind of like semi-Z guard. And then I start working back. He's past here. And I know he's... I can't even feel him. I know he's going to be desperate here because he knows he needs the finish. And I can hear his corner saying 50 seconds. So I'm going, oh, this is good. So here, I go full jiu-jitsu mode. Watch, there's a part here, see, I fully turn, which I would never do. I turn into my guard, which is just like, for me, that's unheard of.
Okay.
Here, when he goes back to the cage, he tries to backstep. I like turn in and put butterfly hooks in almost, and it's like, what are you doing? So he backsteps here. See here, I should get up, but I go nah, and I just tuck my legs and go back to butterfly guard. And then here, full guard, lock him up. And then as soon as I was here,
playing it safe,
and I'm like here, and then I go, you know what? Get a few elbows off here. I'm putting pressure on as well. So I go to this guard, sit here for a sec, and then I'm like, nah, I'm gonna get some elbows off.
Yeah.
And I actually landed 2 or 3.
Oosh. Oosh. Is that legal?
Yep.
That one's all.
Off your back, you can do whatever you want.
Now, 2 more questions. All right. Out of everything that happened, whether it's the training camp leading up to the fight, the day there or the day after, what's one significant moment that you can tell me and the audience, whether it's funny, serious, or anything that just stands out from your whole experience for this fight? One thing that stands out. It can be anything, serious, funny.
So a serious one. I'll read it to you. So, oh, my phone's dead.
Fuck.
But
Top of your head.
There's one of my good friends, Quade. I was cutting weight and I was nearly on weight, and he sent me a message and he just said, "Hey bro, how you feeling?" And I just honestly answered the question to him, and I said, "Mate, I feel as good as I've ever felt. I'm so excited to get in there and let my hands go. I feel like it's my time, and this is going to be my best performance yet." And I said that, and he goes, "Wow, that's awesome! Can't wait to watch." And then after the fight, I looked at my phone and I had a message, and he clicked on the message and replied to that message and said, "This aged well." And it was like, it was one of those things where you speak something and you put it out into the world, and then it happens, and that was a really cool moment for me. So
that's sick.
Yeah.
Now, lastly, just to finish it off, is there any advice that you can give for individuals like me that's coming up within the scene? And obviously, I'm chasing a similar thing to you, but you're legit at the top of the top. Any advice that you can give for an individual like me or any other fighters that are wanting to pursue this path? A piece of advice from PHAR Jenkins.
I would say make sure you're happy with the people you have around you, and that's not necessarily just in terms of your coaches or your teammates or anything like that. Everyone around you, so your friends who you're hanging out with and that sort of stuff, and just try and keep the people around you that bring out the best in you. And that's not necessarily someone who wants the same as you or is the same as you. Like, I've got friends that I keep very close that couldn't be more opposite to me, but it's just because they're relaxed, fun, chilled out people, and that brings me back to earth, and it makes me realize, like, oh, this isn't everything, and it helps me relax more and get more out of myself for training. And I think I've really got good people both inside the gym, outside the gym, and everywhere in between to find a good balance. But I think probably the biggest thing I would say is just don't get lost in between. Don't get lost in between fights in not enjoying it, because that in between fights of training hard, being ready, going to grab a coffee with your teammates after training, all the things like that, that's what you're going to miss when you retire. You will miss the stadium shows and stuff, but if you're lucky, you get to do that 20-25 times. Whereas the little things like having a coffee with your friends after training, having a laugh after training, enjoying the training in itself. When we're 40 and we have to go back to work in regular jobs or whatever comes after this, that's the stuff we'll miss.
Yeah, 100%. Well, guys, that was Inside the Mind of a Fighter, episode 12 with PHAR Jenkins. Please, guys, let's root for Jack. All right, he's not even coming up with the scene. He's like legit at the top of the league. So let's get a big support behind him. Inshallah, we'll hear from the UFC soon. You'll be having your UFC fight soon, inshallah. Just guys, get behind him. He's a Melbourne fighter. He's from our area, so I don't think there's any other UFC fighter from Melbourne, right? Besides Jake Matthews,
Jimmy Croots from Bendigo.
Yeah.
I think that's it at the moment. Yeah.
Guys, let's make a big scene. Let's get Jack to be the 3rd UFC fighter from Melbourne. I'll pop all his socials down below. Be sure to check him out. Thanks, bro.
Thank you, brother. That was good.
Sick.
Thank you.